As anyone who lived in the Adirondacks before the 1980s will tell you, winters aren't what they used to be. With a little prompting, those old-timers will share their recollections of weeks on end with low temperatures passing 20 below zero, and a few nights closing in on the mythical 40 below mark. Thing is, I've heard enough fish tales over the years to wonder, was it really that cold? For current residents of the Adirondacks, this year, 2025, has felt like a real winter. Since the 1st of January, nighttime temperatures have fallen below zero more than 15 times, and a few nights have been close to 20 below. And it wasn't until February 24th that the temperature rose above freezing for the first time this year. Historic temperature data can be obtained from several sources, but records for the Adirondacks are sparse. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association website stores and correlates records from various sources, and by searching the NOAA archive, I was able to find records from Indian Lake going back to 1900. I also found records from Newcomb, starting in 1959, and an odd data set covering just 3 years, recorded at the Whitney Park headquarters near Sebattis. I would have ignored that sliver of data, except that the years are 1956 through 1958, covering a few of the years when my family lived there and experienced some of those really cold winters. These data sets are quite large, more than 45,000 rows for the Indian Lake Station, so I've detailed the process I used to dig out the low temperatures. You can find that and more at my completely revamped website at www.adirondackforests.com. So, how about those past winters? Well, based on this limited data, it appears that the old-timers were right. In 1914, in Indian Lake, there were 7 nights recorded as -30 or colder, and the temperature fell below -30 a total of 21 times between 1910 and 1920. 11 nights fell below the -30 mark in a 3-year stretch starting in 1933. And from 1956 to 1979, a stretch of cold years that still resonates in the memories of many folks alive today, there were 13 nights colder than -30. For me, the surprise was that since 1980 in Indian Lake, only 3 nights have been recorded as -30 or colder. Oddly, the data for Newcomb showed a dozen nights crossing that threshold, which didn't quite make sense, given that Newcomb is only 15 miles from Indian Lake. A closer look revealed that Indian Lake had a number of readings of -28 or -29, while those same days registered lows in Newcomb a couple of degrees colder. Just cold enough to hit the -30 threshold I was using to filter the data. An actual difference of a couple of degrees is certainly possible, but given that this discrepancy is consistent, it looks more like a systematic bias, maybe a difference in the thermometers used or some other local condition. As for Whitney Park, that data shows 2 dates in 1957 with lows recorded as -37 degrees. And temperatures of 20 to 30 below show up more than a dozen times over a short stretch. Well, Dad, looks like it really was that cold back in them days. The winter of 2025 has been colder than many recent years in the Adirondacks, but maybe not quite like the good old days. The bigger picture, however, remains the same. Globally, January 2025 was the warmest on record, and the far north has been exceptionally warm. January 2025 in Anchorage, Alaska, had 13 days with high temperatures above 40 degrees, and 2 of those days hit records of 50 degrees or warmer. If the Adirondacks are just too cold for you, and hurricanes and alligators are not your thing, maybe consider Anchorage. It's getting warmer up there, fast.